The Seminoles, good snap from Shiver. Charlie has all kinds of time. Flushed out of the pocket, goes to his right, looks downfield, throws the ball downfield, has Brad Fryer. Fryer at the 40, Fryer at the 35, 30, 25, 20, 15, 10, 5, touchdown, Florida, Seminoles.
Ward took another big shot, but he got the ball to Marek Vanover, and we'll see you tomorrow. Touchdown, Seminoles, 86 yards. 4,000. Ward back to throw. Great play fake. Buckner is there. Ward with a man open. It is Lonnie Johnson for the second time this afternoon.
Gwynn. Handoff. Play action by Charlie. Looks to his right. Eludes the sack rush. Still running. Throws the pass. It's caught. Touchdown, Lonnie Johnson.
Blitz coming on it. Picked up. And Charlie Ward takes off. Ward inside the 10. Touchdown.
First and 10, Florida State. Ward has it up for grabs, complete for Vanover. This will be a touchdown. 60-yard completion from Charlie Ward to Marek Vanover.
Here all by himself. Second and goal from the 2. Here's the snap. Charlie runs to his right. Charlie may have the angle. 5, 3, 2, 1. Touchdown, Charlie Ward. Touchdown, Charlie Ward. Set Charlie Ward takes the snap. Looks over the middle, now to his right, now over the middle he goes. He's got time to go to the 20, to the 10, to the 5. Touchdown, Florida State. Out of the shotgun set from the 21. Charlie takes the snap. Buys time in the pocket. Throws it over the middle. It is caught. Touchdown. Oh, boy. Kevin Knox, and what a strike thrown by Charlie. Just shy of midfield. Charlie Ward takes the snap. And looks over the middle. Now he's under some pressure, under some heat. Dances out of the pocket. Charlie Ward still dancing. Charlie cocks the arm, goes back the other way. Charlie Ward dances, throws it down. He's got a receiver on the 28, McCorvey. McCorvey goes to his right, is hit and stopped. Charlie Ward ready for the snap from Robbie Baker. He gets it. Looks to his right, still looking. Now may run. He will run with the football. Comes to the right side. He's to the 5, 4, 3. Touchdown, Florida State.
Baker's back in the game. Lifts his arm. Ward puts it up for him. He's got it. Touchdown. Ward. Play action. Pumps. Nice little touch to Lonnie Johnson for the touchdown.
Get up. Ward somehow escapes 2 Virginia defenders and completes it downfield to the 42-yard line.
Ward, big rush on. As Shannon Baker for a touchdown.
Set first down from the Terrapin 30. Inside handoff to a play fake by Charlie Ward. Wants to run. Shows the pass downfield. Torn by Vanover in the 3, 2, 1. Touchdown, Florida State. Dropping his Charlie out of the shotgun. Cocks the arm. Fires it toward the corner. Caught by McCorvey. Touchdown, FSU. Allen will come in motion to the left. Here's the snap from the 30. Charlie Ward throws the flanker pass. It's a lateral, and he'll throw it. Shannon Baker throws it right back to Charlie Ward. Ward to the 30, to the 25, to the 15, to the 10. Ward to the 5, and he's out of bounds to the 3-yard line.
Charlie Ward now is room to operate. He'll take the NBA three and bury it.
The future will be extremely bright once again at North Carolina.
And Ward goes, big moment. Got the field goal, didn't draw the foul on it, but that was huge for the Noles.
Charlie Ward, a long three, and he hits it.
This guy can do everything.
Sora brings it, numbers advantage Seminoles. Here's Ward for the layup. That was too easy.
Boy, they've done a great job today. Look at Mr. Ward going to work with one of his steals. Charlie to Kerner. And the foul on Parks.
BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to wager on all your favorite sports contests and events with first-to-market odds and lines. What's up, y'all? It's your man, Lloyd Spence. And listen, all you got to do is find your reviews and news for every league, including Major League Baseball, NFL, NBA, NHL, combat sports, esports, and even golf, all at betonline.ag. BetOnline continues to be the top online resource for all your sports information, from live in-game betting, props, and futures. So, head to BetOnline today and use your mobile device to join today and make your first sports bet. Use our promo code BLEAV50, that's BLEAV50, BLEAV 50, to receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. It's BetOnline, it's where the game starts. Tell them the Noisemakers sent you.
Popcorn World. Popcorn World. Yeah. Popcorn World. Can I make you move now? Yes, I can. So you can get this move in the back of a can. I can make it round the world when it holds in your hand. Popcorn World. 250 flavors gonna make you smile. 250 flavors gonna make you smile. 250 flavors gonna make you smile. I said popcorn make you smile. Ah. 250 flavors. Popcorn World. Popcorn World. Popcorn World.
You're now listening to BLEAV in the ACC with Heisman Trophy winner and Florida State legend, Mr. Charlie Ward, Wave 3 TV, and Burn Creek Hall of Famer Kendrick Haskins, and Mr. Talking Noise himself, and of course Mama Noise's man, Lloyd Spence. And now, it's time for BLEAV in the ACC.
Good morning, everybody. We are ready for another episode of BLEAV in the ACC. I am Lloyd Spence. That is Charlie Ward. And we have two great gentlemen with us this morning. I am super excited. I'll start with the the host of Wakeup 502, 502, and one of the founders of Main Event Sports, and an all-around amazing guy and man of God. Mr. Raashaan Meyers is in the building. It's good to see you, brother.
What's going on, Lloyd? How you doing, my brother?
I am good, man. I know, man. It's been too long, brother. It's been too long. And this gentleman, other gentleman, needs no introduction. I mean, once you see the face and you see who it is, it's obvious to all Florida State fans and beyond, Minnesota Viking fans. I can go on who this gentleman is, but most people don't know him as the director of Florida State football operations or Vikings. They know him for this viral video. He didn't think I would show this morning, but I am going to show it because I love this video.
21 years I stayed in these projects. This is why I learned how to play football now. Y'all keep walking around like y'all got something. I come from nothing. I keep giving y'all my soul every day, and y'all won't listen to me. Nobody gonna give us nothing. We gotta take what we want. You wanna go to college? You wanna get out of this situation? Work hard. That's why we came through here. My master bedroom bigger than this whole house. I come from nothing. I don't want no more complaining. I'm none of y'all. All we gonna do is work. Do y'all understand me? Yes, sir. Get on the floor.
I gotta tell you something, Corey. When I saw that video, it was last year sometime, right? Was it last year?
That video is about 8 years old now.
Is it 8 years old? Is it that old?
Yeah.
I think I saw it last year for the first time, and I was like, okay, who is this madman? And then when I heard you say it, when I saw what you said, I was like, oh, he's a genius. This is genius. This is amazing. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's Corey Fuller in the building.
Good morning.
Today. But my God, that video, I was ready to come re-suit up, man. I'm like, well, let's go play then.
Can't do that no more.
How you feeling this morning, man? You guys excited, both of you?
Yeah, we're excited. We about to have practice. Well, we're heading out to the field right now, but it's a great time to be a Seminole, as you know, as Junior know. And the guys are working hard. Coach Norvell is pointing to the whole staff and the players, and it's paying off in a major way.
I'll tell you this: it is an interesting game that's coming up, and I'm glad to have both you gentlemen here today because both of you have you're around the program and every day, and you see what's going on. Two teams could not be at bigger crossroads than Louisville and Florida State. And Corey, I'll start with you because you mentioned Coach Norvell. What is the culture and the feeling like after these first two wins? These are two really significant wins, especially the LSU one, because you went down into Nolens and took care of business. What is it feeling going into this next game like for the Seminoles right now? What does the team feel like?
I think the feeling is same. I think just by the way you worded that question, Lord, I think a lot of people were surprised what happened in New Orleans. We wasn't surprised, to be honest. I'm not bashful about my truth about the Noel family and the Seminole brand. The last time we played LSU, the last 8 or 9 times, they only won one game. Like, this is expected of the Seminole Nation to win big games, but to people that's outside of the room, they're still thinking about, you got to turn the page. Every year you have to turn the page. You have to expect that. Is this the year to get back? Well, I say this is the year to get back. We're working towards the goal to be back at the top of college football right now. And I just think what we did the first 2 games, it shows you that we're working the right way. The temperature and the culture of the team is right where it needs to be at right now. And Coach Norvell is doing a great job. He has surrounded himself with the right people at the right time. But all this stuff is ordained by God, man. I had no idea 30 years later I'd be at Florida State. I was chugging along, completely fine in the role that God had me in, being a high school coach and being a mentor, but an opportunity to come back to the alma mater and do great things in pretty much the same role. I tell people all the time, I'm a glorified high school coach without the X and O's. Yeah. So the pressure of winning the game is not on me, but I still have the same pressure trying to change young people and get them to see the gift that God has birthed inside of them.
I feel like at this point, you should be giving the pregame speech in every locker room in America. Like they should just videotape you and let you give a general pregame speech for everybody. Because man, you sound like a coach, you feel like a coach, and you seem like you walk around inspired.
I think the best students are the ones that listen to teachers. And in the game of football, I've had some of the greatest teachers to ever put on a headset all the way from high school to the NFL, and arguably one of the greatest college coach in history. People think it's just Coach Bowden, but Mickey Andrews was the greatest cornerback coach of this generation and many generations to come. I just think that a lot of people see me and think what you're thinking. Could I be making a lot more money? Motivational speaking, yes, because everything that I talk about is from experiences and it's real. It's not made up. Same thing with Charlie. This stuff is proven, tested, and tried. So when it comes out of us, it's just natural. Some of our voice are more heavy from the South, so it seems like I'm always speaking in a motivational tone. It's just actually the way I talk, and it really, for people that listen to this podcast, the greatest motivation is self-motivation and belief. So once you can get somebody to believe, they can really achieve. It's not just a catchy stand. You know, if I can believe it, I can achieve it. It is true. But the problem is 99% of the people in the world don't have the will to chase what they believe. So they never achieve it.
It's a good word there, brother.
Go ahead, Charlie.
I want to ask Raashaan, kind of, what is the temperature around the Louisville program? Because I know the first game didn't go according to plan. They got smacked around a little bit. And then last week they were able to overcome, on the road, be able to get a good win. But it still gave up a lot of yards on the ground. What is the feeling right now in the Louisville program with Coach Satterfield?
Charlie, I tell you what, man. It right now, I don't think anybody knows what to think. Of course, there was a lot of preseason hype coming into the year. Coach Satterfield, even though Louisville kind of closed down the end of the season in tough fashion, losing, getting blown out by their rival in UK, losing to Air Force in the bowl game, in the Independence Bowl. Coach Satterfield was able to kind of change the narrative because of some wonderful recruiting efforts. Louisville's looking towards having probably their greatest recruiting class ever in 2023, and there was a lot of optimism around the program. But that kind of came to a screeching halt when Louisville comes out the first week of the season and, pretty much gets embarrassed by Syracuse 31-7 on the road up there in New York. And that kind of left a bad taste in everyone's mouth. Pretty much all of the preseason hype went down the drain at that point. And extensively, people really did not have much hope going into that UCF game because UCF was considered to be better than Syracuse. They're a team that was getting some possible top 25 love. Gus Malzahn seemed to start to, do some things to get the program rolling. So there was not much hope going into that UCF game after the poor performance in week one. But lo and behold, Louisville comes out with an extremely strong defensive performance, especially in the second half, 10 straight defensive stops to get that win. And that's been probably the biggest bugaboo for Coach Satterfield's team has been defense. The defense has not played well since he's been there. So to come out and be led by that defense who had an extreme makeover this offseason. They added a lot of guys. They have a lot of returning experience. And that was supposed to be a better situation this year. It did not manifest itself in the first game, but in that last game versus UCF, the defense stepped up. The defense was the reason that Louisville won the game. It's the first game that Coach Satterfield has won as the coach of Louisville where they did not score at least 20 points in the game. So it was definitely a different performance than we've seen from his team. But with that win, I don't want to say everybody's back on board, but there's at least cautious optimism that Louisville can go out there, put on a good show, and they've had a good bit of success versus FSU over the last several years. So the hope is that trend can continue.
Oh man, look at that! They had some success over the last several years. Talking about yesterday. Yesterday's Spurs don't win today's ball game.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Question to both of you. How hard is it, and really all of you, Charlie, you're a state championship coach, so I have to ask you this as well. How hard is it to get teams to shift not to a new culture? Because I don't know if any of these programs needed to shift to new cultures, but getting back to the traditions and the cultures that made these brands what they are. You know, that's, to me, that may be harder than trying to come in and establish a new culture. My computer won't let me be great right now, but but how hard is it to get them to shift or to buy into the old culture? And Corey, I'll start with you on that question, because you guys state national championships and ACC championship. How do you get them to shift back to that mindset?
I don't think you try to shift back to that, because that was over a 30-year period. It was over a great run by a great leader. I think what you try to do is get people to understand that the foundation for Florida State football would never be broken. We just have somebody in building the house different. But eventually we will put the roof on top of it and be like the past. But trying to get back to what we was, if you do that right there, you chasing ghosts. You know, the brand is what you got to do is rebuild the house, because the foundation is there. You know, there are 15 iconic programs in the country. I would say, you know, it's just my opinion and maybe some other people's opinion, but Florida State is definitely going to be one of the top 5 iconic programs in the country. So us getting back, we never left the scene. We just got to win, and we got to win big. I think 10 wins that's not nothing around here. You know, I can look out over my.
You're always asking, where next?
All the championships and all the ACC titles and the Heisman trophies, you walk past those things every day. You just chasing greatness here, and so that's what we got to get our kids and everybody in the building to understand. You're running after greatness. We're not chasing. We're chasing real trophies at Florida State.
Every time you talk, I hear the Bobby Bowden in you, and you and Charlie. Y'all sound exactly alike in your philosophies.
So when Charlie came, I'm gonna say this about C-Ward. When Charlie came to speak to the team this year, that's what I told the kids after the night he spoke. The next day, I said the one common thing that you always gonna hear. If somebody may come in screaming, somebody may come in with Charlie tone, somebody may come in with my tone, but all the stories and the messages are going to be the same, because we're under the same umbrella. We set up under the same tree. So it's going to be the same. And one thing about greatness, don't try to reinvent the wheel. Just try to keep it spinning.
All right. Is that, do you agree with that, Raashaan? Is that the same thing that's going on in Louisville, or is it slightly different?
Well, I tell you what, it's a very interesting dynamic within the football program at Louisville, because if you were looking on the outside and you were, taking the temperature of the fan base and media, I would say that, everybody's been up in arms with the amount of, the losses. Coach Satterfield is the first coach to have back-to-back losing seasons since Steve Crackthorpe, and Crackthorpe lost his job. Of course, they did decide and opt to bring Coach Satterfield back for his 4th season. So, you would think there was a lot of turmoil. You would think there would be maybe some abrasiveness in the locker room, some cancerous type of things, within the locker room. But it's actually the complete opposite. The buy-in from the players, the support that the coaches get from the players. I mean, we've seen players be disengaged. At the end of Bobby Petrino's 2nd run here at Louisville, it was an absolutely toxic situation within the locker room. Guys going out there and telling people's business and talking about what's going on behind closed doors, fights. You have players refusing to go to the locker room when they've been kicked off the sidelines from the coach. So we've seen the toxic culture within the football program, as recently as 2018. But within the program, with Coach Satterfield's group, one thing I can say is everybody within the locker room are all on the same page. They've never wavered in that, even through the losses, even through the not so great times. The players have never given up. And that's one thing I can definitely say. Scott Satterfield, for any issues that he's had on the field, the culture within the locker room seems to be as strong as it's ever been.
Wow.
I mean, I would agree with both. When we talk about foundation, and of course, talk about foundation, one of the things that, like, everyone wants to try to come up with something new. However, we know that discipline, work ethic, respect, those things don't ever go away. And so when you have those attributes as your foundation, then you're going to be working towards the same goal every year, regardless of what it looks like or where you are. And so I just think, the names may change, and that's kind of, what happens. But when it's all said and done, you got to have those foundational attributes within your program where guys are playing their role. Whatever that role is at the time, it can definitely change throughout the year, as we've seen before, with, a guy who may not be starting at the beginning of the year, and then at some given point, he's asked to come in and play a role that's different than the one he was currently playing. And there should be no drop-off. I do know, and Corey can probably share this, at Florida State now, there's quality depth, and that plays a big part in the success. I know when we were in school, we had quality depth. The fourth string guy was Ward Dunn. And I was thinking about our scout team. When I was a senior, we had Peter Bower, Andre Wadsworth, and Renard Wilson. They were on the scout team. So, I mean, we know what they turned out to be, but they were young pups at that time, but they were still very talented. And so that's what we mean by quality depth. Guys not getting an opportunity to play, having a red shirt because they're waiting their time. And I know that's something that Florida State, Coach Norvell has done a great job of rebuilding the roster to get that quality depth.
I think that most athletes, if they don't come right out and be a bang out of high school, most people, only part of the story they keep up with is the end part. And that's when they're being drafted, when they go play NBA, the NFL, or Major League Baseball. Like what Charlie just said was a staple of our program. And that's why I'm very consistent with telling people the foundation at Florida State, just go read the founding fathers, as they say about the Constitution. The founding father of Florida State football was really Bobby Bowden. If you just go read his Constitution, you will see that the foundation will never be broken here again. No matter what year it's in, the thing is what Charlie just said. I'm getting to the main point. I was at Florida State for 5 years. I started 13 games in college and was the 55th pick. But we had so much depth, and everybody knew their role. You couldn't tell that if you came to a practice that I wasn't starting. You couldn't tell that I was a starter, because once the challenge went out there from offense to defense, it was on every day. One-on-ones was like a game every day. So when we got in the game, it was like practice. And so people chase stuff. People try to come up with all this gimmick stuff. I've been a high school coach for the last 13, 14 years. And I think every coach, because I know there's going to be coaches watching this podcast, you should send everybody on your staff to a bad high school for at least 2 weeks of training. Not training on X and O's, to learn how to deal with the creature that you're recruiting. Kids are coming out of high school without a real foundation. So when they get here, this is the first time they're being challenged. And all, like Corey, it's some tough love. I'm coming from a broken environment, coming from a broken home. Charlie was fortunate where he had both parents in the house. But you still have to learn how to love us in the process of developing us. And when you do that right there, you will potentially see the run that Bobby Bowden created at Florida State, that Nick Saban is creating at Alabama. That's why you have these, You have these flash players. People can go win championships, but can you win souls and change lives? And that's what coaching is. Because everybody that coaches is not going to win a championship. And so many guys are trying to win a championship that they're missing the most important ingredients, and that's why the food never tastes good. So every 3-4 years, these colleges are changing coaches, the alumni buying out contracts, because until you get somebody that can get the food to taste good, but it got to be the right mixture of everybody in the building to make that meal taste good and to get what you want in the end. Yeah, you're going to get the head coach going to get his guaranteed money, but he's going to be a failure. The program's going to be set back 5 to 10 years. But if you get a true foundation, stop going and looking at somebody else and seeing what they're doing and think that's going to work. Because the players you need at Florida State are not the players I need at Indiana State. So you got to know what you're recruiting. So, and you got to know what you're getting inside of your building. You got to have people that deal with them. And that's why I think the opportunity that Coach UofL has created here for me and other guys in this program, it is all linking up together to lead back to the founding father of Florida State football.
I want to stay there for a second because that's an interesting thing you just brought up. Because a lot of schools don't do what Florida State did or has done with Mike Norvell or what Louisville has done with Coach Satterfield. Listen, a couple of bad years in today's NCAA will get you fired. Like, we just saw Scott Frost get fired, and there's others out there that are being fired because they can't sustain success, whatever that means. But both of these programs similarly have decided to kind of ride the wave, ride the bad times. And I'll turn to Raashaan for this one first. Does it feel like now that's starting to pay off, or there's still some trepidation on your side? Because it doesn't feel like it's that way right now at Florida State. Or is it that way at Florida State as well? But I'll start with you, Raashaan. Is it feel like it's starting to pay off that you stuck with them and went through the bad times, and now here we are?
Well, I mean, if you can look for an example of a team sticking with the coach through the tough times, just look at former Florida State defensive coordinator Mark Stoops and what he's doing at UK. I mean, he had several seasons there that were not the greatest. There was a lot of issues with his scheduling and, not necessarily achieving great results on the field, but UK stuck it out with him, and now UK finds themselves in the top 10 after going on the road and knocking off Florida. So, I mean, I think that's the hope, and I totally agree with you. I mean, normally, if you have back-to-back losing seasons, the last two coaches that had back-to-back losing seasons at the University of Louisville ended up leaving. That's Ron Cooper back in the 90s, and then as we talked about, Steve Cragthorpe earlier. So the fact that, Vince Tyre was the AD at that time, just decided that, he really liked the direction of the program. He really liked the messaging. So he wanted to stick by him and allow Coach Satterfield's vision to be realized on the field. Now, whether the payoff is there remains to be seen. I mean, you've seen the success that he's had on the recruiting trails. The number one running back in the country, Reuben Owens, is a part of this recruiting class. The number one dual threat quarterback, Pierce Clarkson, is a part of that recruiting class in 2023 as well. But I feel like he's going to have to find some success on the field. I don't think Louisville could have, say, 3 straight losing seasons and Coach Satterfield be retained. I don't think there's an appetite for that. But if he can at least finish the season 500 or better, I think that would be enough for him to continue to build that program. And you hope that the payoff is what we've seen Coach Stoops, with his success at UK. That's the hope here at Louisville as well, I would think.
Wow. What about you? Go ahead.
Maybe you can share a little bit of the processes, because sometimes the people on the outside don't understand fully what's going on the inside. And so they start barking really, really loud. And sometimes, as we know, the processes of the coach plays a big part in the success of a team. And a lot of times, or sometimes it may not manifest itself on the scoreboard, but you start to see the building of something great. And if someone on the inside don't see that and they make a rash decision, and you mentioned it earlier, how it sets a program back, by changing voices and changing philosophies, and now you got to try to recruit the guys that you want to recruit, and it kind of sets everything back. Kind of share a little bit about some of the processes that you've seen Coach Norvell have implemented since you've been there. I guess you've been there for a little over
I've been 9
months or so.
Yeah. I just honestly, Charlie, I'm not a big process guy. I think it's like grind and process. These are words that have been in the dictionary, but those are new catchy phrases for people to use. You know, we never heard that word grind. They work the hell out of us. We know how to work. The process is nothing to me. It's just go do it. And what he's doing is getting back to the founding father of the program. He has a lot of Bobby Brown qualities in him, Charlie, that people don't know. He cares about his players. So just that alone, and I'm speaking from what I know from how I dealt with my kids, from watching that alone, that right there will change a program. Not fake care, real love. So that is part of trying to change a young Afro-American male that comes from an inner city or rural country town or a little metro town that play football. Because 75% of the kids that play football in America, from the Pop Warner to the NFL, are Afro-American kids. You already know most of us are coming from broken environments.
Right.
So we need real, tough love to help straighten us out. And I think that thing, what people don't see on the outside, as you will say, the word that everybody relates to is the process. That's the process that's being put in place. When you don't care about the outcome of I get fired or I keep my job based off wins and losses, you automatically win. You have to invest in the player right to get a real return. And by investing into the player, you automatically win. Then it will show up on the scoreboard. When you see guys go in the locker room and lift a coach up after they win, it's because he cares and they care because they know he cares. That's what's going on right now, Charlie, in our locker room, in the Seminole Nation. People don't realize this. Our last 3 national championships, they went down to the wire. Good teams versus good teams. There are very few blowouts unless the ball is turned over in real football. We play real football inside of our conference. Then when we get outside of our conference, people don't realize it, Charlie. We probably would have had 3 or 4 national championships just alone in our 4 or 5 year run at Florida State if we didn't play Florida and Miami every year. That wasn't a conference game, and it wasn't sanctioned by the NCAA. So people don't realize that the real greatness that this program had flourished over them, because it's so much, oh, I couldn't go there, they're not good. That's not the truth. You don't win, you don't be in the top 20, 15, 20 years in a row in the top 5 by accident, but it's all back to what I really just said, because we knew Coach Brown cared, we knew this man loved us, and we knew the assistant coaches loved us. We know they cared. Now, did they saw on us? Did they work the hell out of us every day? Did they talk to us crazy? Yes, they did. Off the field, they treated us like human beings.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the key factors that's missing. So many people trying to mimic the NFL and mimic other people with success. I can't try to have, if I'm at a mid-major school as the coaching staff, well, I'm trying to do what Nick Saban doing. He got an unlimited budget.
Right.
So many people miss the mark and trying. A couple of books that people should read is the I Was Born to Coach, one of Coach Brown books. So many people spend so much time trying to be somebody else that they miss being themselves. And that's why most first-time coaches, head coaches at these big programs, they lose their job because they spent so much time being somebody else. So that, and once people start identifying that that person is not genuine, that's when the people with that money makes those irrational movements into changing the program. We got to have a different voice. No, Coach Norvell has strategized this thing good. He's put people in place. I like leaders that when they see something, maybe they may not be as great in, as good in, I'm gonna go hire somebody, or I'm gonna get somebody that's strong in that area, and not be intimidated. Like, that's what I love about Mike. You know, Mike Norvell, he lets me be who I need to be with these players to help push the agenda of him and Florida State football. That's the difference Florida State. Coach Easton was that guy for us, Charlie, when we was here.
Right.
I don't have to be an X and O guy because I played in the NFL. See, I know how to suppress my ego because I was a high school coach and I did very well in terrible situations with kids and programs, got kids in the country, all over the country playing college football. What I have to do is take the gift God blessed me with and birth it every day. So that's why you see the change, Charlie, and that's why the Seminole Nation should be very proud. I hear my man talking about Louisville football. It is very shaky times at Louisville. Just listening to this podcast today, listen to him. It is very shaky times. I can't tell you, I don't know the temperature of the program, but I am in Seminole through and through. All I can do is tell you right here, we're going to try to put it on shakier grounds, baby. That's all I can tell you. We're going to try to put it on shakier grounds.
Shake it up even more.
You keep the passion, man. I got to get out to this field, man. You keep the passion for Louisville. You keep speaking to the young men. Speak your truth. Don't go by when you I see you a host. So when you put some out there, let it be factual, man. Because at the end of the day, you're dealing with people's lives, and we want to be godly men. At the end of the day, the Bible says, "God bless the child that has his own." We're working with young people. It's our job to help them get their own, so we can continue to be blessed, and they can be blessed in their life and be a blessing to somebody else one day. Man, I love you, brothers, man. Y'all keep working.
Thank you, Corey. Appreciate you, man.
Good luck, Coach.
See, boy, y'all hit me anytime y'all want me on the show, but I didn't know I was going to be in with a Louisville host today, so I ain't really cut up like I wanted to. Because I
You did good. You did good.
I don't want to give them for the bulletin board. Hey, man, make sure you come seek me out after the game, man. Let's shake hands, brother.
Absolutely. We'll catch up, Coach. Absolutely.
All right, man. Love you, brothers, man. Y'all be good.
That's good, man.
Hey, good luck.
Fantastic. Listen, that worries me because if that's walking the sideline of Florida State, Louisville might be in a lot of trouble. Louisville might be in a lot of trouble.
That's Corey. He's been that way since I've known him.
Wow, that's outstanding, man. That's outstanding. I'm sitting there like, man, where are my pads at? Where's my helmet? Oh, that's why I'm not playing.
That's a whole lot of motivation right there. That's a whole lot of motivation.
Is it similar though at Louisville now? Because I do hear, because I want to be fair, I do hear that Coach Satterfield is extremely well liked, and that the players love him. I don't think the disconnect is his intent.
Right.
I think what would you say the disconnect might be, Raashaan?
Well, I think that it just comes down to wins and losses. Like, we've seen a disconnected program. Truthfully, one of the biggest issues when Coach Crackthorpe got the job here, just like Coach was talking about, is that he was spending all his time trying to be a caricature of what he thinks a coach is supposed to be, but he was not his authentic self, and the players never really bought in to what he was selling. You know, he was taking over for By Petrino coming off of an Orange Bowl victory. So these players were used to, you know, the real thing. They knew what good coaching looked like. And Coach Crackthorpe came in there, you know, trying to play a role. And some days he's going to be the tough guy. And other days he's going to be the love him up coach. And other days, you know, he just never was authentic and true with those guys. And that connection never got there, and ultimately led to, where they ended up with the back-to-back losing seasons. And I think that's kind of been the biggest difference with Coach Satterfield, is the buy-in from the players and the program from within seems to be as strong as it's ever been. His biggest issue has just been wins and losses on the field. I mean, that's really and truthfully the biggest problem has just been there have been too many situations over the last 2 years in both the 2020 and 2021 seasons where, the coaching staff was not able to put the team in a position to succeed in close games. And that was something that definitely changed versus UCF this past weekend down in Orlando. The seeds of opportunity are there. But at the end of the day, I think it's just going to come down to purely wins and losses, because the buy-in and the motivation and the energy within the program is good energy. So I don't think there is, a turmoil, things of that nature as far as players unhappy, unrest in the locker room. There's none of that. It really and truthfully just comes down to, can you have the success on the field to warrant being the Louisville head coach?
Charlie and I talk about this all the time, and Kendrick as well. And shout out to Kendrick who's away today, but we talk about this all the time. What is the benefit? And Charlie, I'm gonna throw this one to you. What is the benefit of not allowing a coach the time that he needs to completely turn the program around and quote unquote knee jerking a guy out of the situation before he has the chance to truly implement his philosophies or whatever? And I would imagine, and I'll ask you this, Charlie, how much harder do you think it is at Louisville when you don't have a historical constitution, I'll use Corey's word, like a Bobby Bowden in the program? There is no historical constitution at Louisville. You can't use Bobby Petrino. You can't use Charlie Strong. You can't use you could kind of use Howard Schnellenberger, but even his tenure there wasn't long enough to merit a full philosophy that the entire program could build around. So how hard would it be to build a program when you don't have that historical context?
Well, I mean, we keep going back to Coach Stoops at Kentucky, and their history was, I guess, is more of a basketball history. And he's kind of brought that football program to another level. And so I guess he's going to be a standard now for whomever the next coach may be after him, whenever that time is, whenever that time comes. And I just think there are some success at Louisville that you can, kind of say we need to be like this, that you can pull from. We were just fortunate and blessed to have one guy that kind of brought Florida State football to the next level. There were coaches before him, and there have been coaches after him, but he was the one that kind of brought football, FSU football, to a new level over the course of his tenure there. And so you do have those types of programs where there is rich history and tradition centered around normally one coach.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways. And so I think that's, when you have a program where you're trying to, where you have some great success and you're trying to, continue that, at some point you got to just look at, like as I mentioned, the processes of the coach and not just the wins and losses, because you got to understand what is going to help us get over the top. And one of the things that we keep talking about, the success of the other programs, is stability.
Yeah.
You think about all the historical programs, they had great stability.
Yeah.
And so, at Alabama now, I mean, Coach Saban's been there for, quite some time. He's had quite a few changes within the staff, of course, but he's been, his mission has always been there. I mean, he's found a way to be able to recycle coaches to have the same vision. And he's that lone voice that keeps pushing out the program. But when you start changing the voice of the program, the philosophies of the program, you're going to have setbacks. And that's just normal. And so you may have, if you have a situation where, let's say Coach Satterfield is left, doesn't do as well as people expected him to do this year, and he gets let go. Well, now you're hoping that the next coach comes in and he's able to rewrite the ship as far as the recruits that he's bringing in, and keep the momentum of the program going. And then they may have success because he's done a great job of setting the foundation and was moving in the right direction, but they just didn't win. And so I just think it comes at some point where you got to see if this coach has the right processes in place to be able to move them forward. And then you just got to stick it out, because sometimes you're not going to have the success that you need based upon maybe some of the players or the situations. Because let's just say, I'm not casting anything, but if your quarterback goes down? And it's hard to replace that guy.
Right.
And so now, if they don't have this type of season because the quarterback went down, nobody's taking that into account, or one of your best players, or whatever that may be. Or like, let's just say Clemson is different at this point, but they lost quite a few players last year. And everyone thought the program was going, was in the pits and all that. I mean, they ended up winning 10 games. And so not everyone has that type of depth to be able to overcome that at their school. And if you're a coach that's in the midst of like the hot seats, you kind of in, kind of out, you're right there in the middle. And if you have a rash of injuries at key positions, everyone's looking at, well, we just want to win. Well, sometimes it doesn't happen that way.
And I think a big part of it is, look at the pressure on these programs right now. When you're talking about the ACC, everybody sees what's going on with the SEC and the Big Ten, and this push towards, getting these schools wanting to jump ship and get to these other conferences. So there's a lot of pressure on these athletic departments to make sure they're making the right moves to find success, because what none of these teams like Louisville, like Florida State, and, the teams in the Big 12, you don't want to be the one that gets left out. So I definitely think with the announcement of the 12-team playoff, that helps the ACC stability a little bit. But I think there's a lot of pressure to win now. So it's always that question of, we know coaches, the shelf life is 3 to 4 years. If we don't see what we need within that 3 or 4 year period, you got to go. We got to get somebody in here to get this thing going the right way. So I think that adds a lot more pressure with the current landscape in college football overall. And that just puts, a whole lot more pressure. Because, we're talking about $1 billion industry now. That's what college football is. And when you have that kind of money flying around, there's going to be a ton of pressure put on everybody.
But I'll say this too, to your point, to both of your points, it's an unrealistic pressure because, listen, Clemson, Alabama, Ohio State, those are outliers. Everybody's not going to be good every year. That's not how it works. That's not how it has ever worked, where a team is year in, year out going to win 10, 11, 12 games, and they're going to vie for a national championship. That's where you hope to get the program to. But the reality is most college teams are going to be cyclical. They're going to go 2 to 3 years, and then they'll be back in because you got to cycle some people through the program. You got to get them acclimated to the philosophies, like you said, the processes and the philosophies, and then they become good enough to possibly compete, for a national championship or just even a league championship. So I agree 1,000% that I hope that the 12-team playoff will kind of slow down some of these false expectations that are out there, which will help not only buy time for these coaches to build programs sustainably, but also for these players to just kind of relax and say, I don't have to jump ship and go somewhere else because my window is so short to prove myself in a program. And if I don't prove myself, then I can't make it to the next level. All that kind of foolishness that has kind of tainted, if I can say it that way, tainted college sports right now. It's kind of a bad mix of the business side of football colliding with the reality of developmental sports. It's college sports is still developmental sports. You're building young men and young women into something greater, these student athletes. And I think we've kind of just stomped the student part completely out and just said it's and moved on to something else. So I got to ask you both this question because we'll make our predictions here in just a second. But I do want to ask this question for both of you. Florida State will win Friday if Louisville will win Friday if. Who wants to go first? Doesn't matter to me.
Well, I'll let the Heisman Trophy winner go first.
There you go. We typically do that on this program.
I do believe Florida State will win if they're able to run the football like they did in the first game. I think they ran it enough against LSU to keep them honest. And, of course, anytime you win third downs, you have a chance to win games, offensively or defensively. And then defensively, they got to do a great job of keeping Malik Cunningham in the pocket. And he can throw it. Of course, you got to cover receivers. That's one thing. But you got to make sure you keep him in the pocket. So I do believe they contain him and keep him in the pocket, especially on third downs. That's normally where these quarterbacks like Malik Cunningham, Jordan Travis, that's where they kill you because they can get out of the pocket, make things happen, and move the chains because that's what it's all about. But special teams wise, I think if Florida State can, make field goals, that would be important as well. But I do believe if we're able to get the running game, Jordan will pass the basketball. They'll do a good job of passing. I said basketball, pass the ball. I think they'll be successful defensively. They got to contain Malik Cunningham in the pocket, as well as not give up anything, long. I think that I know last year that was a killer for us early on, anyway. So I think those are the key factors.
Well, for me, I think with Louisville, their biggest keys to victory, I think that Malik Cunningham, he's had some of his best games, even though he hasn't had what, I would term that big signature win in a big time moment. One of the teams that he's found a lot of success with passing and running the ball has been versus FSU. He's done it on the road. He's done it at home. He loves seeing, the arrowheads on the side of the helmet. I don't know what it is, but he always plays well. So he needs to continue to do that. I felt like Louisville tried to do too much with him in the pocket in the first game versus Syracuse. They did a much better job of getting him out and allowing him to be that dual threat weapon. I think he's not necessarily a great passer and he's not Lamar Jackson as a runner, but he's good enough at both to where as long as you continue to have that threat of the pass and the run, it makes the Louisville offense very dynamic. So Louisville's going to need for Malik to come out there, continue to play well, continue to find guys in the passing game. He was a little bit inefficient passing the ball last week. He needs to get better with that. But if Malik can come in there and be effective as he has been in previous matchups, I think that bodes well. And defensively, it's going to be about that front seven. What we saw Louisville do in the second half versus UCF, they talked about the pass rush. They talked about Yaya Diaby and what he could do off the edge. They talked about Yasir Abdullah, all of these guys that they brought in, Momo Sinogo, the transfer from Ole Miss, what these guys would be able to do, as well as Ashton Gelati, putting pressure on the quarterback. We saw them make John Rice Plumlee very, very uncomfortable. That's what you're going to want to see versus Jordan Travis. You want to see if Travis can complete passes with pressure in his face. If you can do that, get tight on those corners and put pressure on him trying to throw into smaller windows, I think that's going to be the biggest thing. Up the pressure. Louisville has classically been a very conservative defense, and we've seen teams feast on them because they are so passive, especially in the secondary, vacating their linebackers and allowing both the quarterback run game as well as the short intermediate passing game to just kill them. But what we saw in that second half versus UCF was a much more aggressive tenor and tone. They brought the cornerbacks down, played some bump and run coverage on the outside. They allowed more pressure to come, 5-6 man pressures up front, and it made all the difference in the world. So my hope is that Coach Brown, the defensive coordinator at Louisville, continues to lean on that. And if you can do that, I think Louisville can find themselves in the winner's circle again.
Hold on, Raashaan.
Yes, sir.
Hey, did you see my man Jordan Travis throwing dimes with folks in his face? I'm just trying to. I'm trying to understand your logic here. I'm just trying to figure out. Like, did you see him throwing dimes with people targeting his head?
Absolutely. Oh no, Jordan played an amazing game versus LSU. That's to take nothing away from him. But the one thing we cannot allow him to do is stand back there and just have target practice. Of course, it was an amazing troll job by the Florida State athletic department to have Jordan Travis and Jared Jackson, the two transfers from Louisville, bringing out and announcing their new uniforms. That was quality work. And by the way, those uniforms, the all white,
amazing.
Outstanding.
Amazing. They are amazing. Yeah.
Outstanding uniforms. But that was not missed by the folks here in Louisville. But no, I think that's going to be the biggest thing is you're going to have to try to make him uncomfortable. Jordan Travis is crazy, fellas, because Travis was seen to be the future of Louisville football. He was a guy that everybody thought would ultimately take over and be the guy to lead the Satterfield regime, as he took over as coach. But, of course, Jordan decided to transfer as Coach Satterfield came in, and that didn't come to fruition. So there's a lot of dynamics. There's a lot of juicy stuff, a lot of drama within this matchup. I cannot wait to see what happens. But, yeah, we're going to have to get in his face because if you let him just sit back there and throw it, he's going to complete passes all day.
And that's something else. When I played, that was the goal for everyone else to do that as well. Sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. But,
right.
I'll be curious to see how many targets they give at their old teammate.
Yeah.
Jarvis.
Their old teammate. I love it.
I have a feeling there's going to be a little talking out there, Charlie. I feel like there's going to be a lot of talking.
I tell you what, one of the things, this is not a true rivalry in the traditional sense of college sports, but this game has produced some amazing results over the past 5-10 years. And I'm excited. And I love the fact that they have the stage all to themselves this Friday. So that's going to be exciting. The nation will certainly be watching. And it's going to be a good game. I think this is the kind of game that kind of sets the real tone for the ACC this year. Like everybody will kind of look at this game and go, okay, it feels like this is okay. Now we're about to start ACC football for real. Like this is because everybody looks at that Syracuse Louisville game and say, okay, Louisville for whatever reason they weren't ready or whatever. But this feels like the game that's going to be the measuring stick for everybody, for Florida State as well as Louisville. So, Raashaan, if you got a few minutes, we do our predictions weekly, okay. And I would love to run through and do our predictions with you if you don't mind, man. If you got some time with us, okay. So let me give you our record. We're doing all right after last week. Charlie went 7-5. Kendrick and I went 8-4, which brings everybody's total record to 15-9, which is weird, but that's where we are right now. So,
man, I could have made some money last week if I was listening.
Listen, if you're betting with us, and especially if you're using betonline.ag, you're making some money. You're doing all right. So Kendrick is out of town, but he did send in his picks. So we will add Kendrick's picks to your picks and my picks and Charlie's picks. And so we'll start with Wofford and Virginia Tech. Charlie Ward, who are you taking in the Wofford, the mega game, Wofford and Virginia Tech?
Well, I'm going with Virginia Tech. They actually showed me a little something last week with their comeback victory after their upset from Old Dominion.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go with Virginia Tech. They can't get upset twice in the same year.
You got to believe that's out of the system. I would think, but it is Virginia Tech, so I'm not going to.
The first game. I mean, in the first game, anything can happen, as we've seen. Whether you playing an unranked opponent or quality opponent, anything can happen in that first game.
Absolutely. Raashaan, who are you going with in that one?
I would agree as well. Virginia Tech got embarrassed by Old Dominion. That's just not going to fly. So I would definitely think they're going to come out motivated. I know Wofford's a good basketball program, but I don't think they're that good at football. So Tech's got to get that done at home.
All right. Kendrick went with Virginia Tech. I will go with Virginia Tech as well. I'm with you guys. It's hard for me to buy that they're going to go down in flames again. So we will see. Listen, but it is Virginia Tech, though. It is Virginia Tech, so anything can happen. Another big one this week: Purdue and Syracuse. Syracuse coming in 2-0. The Orange 2-0. Dino Babers 2-0. Charlie, is he going to continue with a big win over Purdue?
I'm going the home team. They play much better at home than they probably do on the road, and so I'm gonna go with Syracuse.
All right.
I'll tell you what, I think in this one, coming firsthand, seeing what Syracuse looked like. Hey, let me tell you something. They looked very good versus UofL in that first game. That they were able to do some things through the air. Turner is an absolute monster at running back. This is the type of game that Jeff Brom at Purdue has classically lost. Everybody always remembers the upsets when they knock off Ohio State or they get a big win over Michigan. But the flip side of that, he always loses to like an Indiana or Rutgers or something like that. I think that trend continues. I think Syracuse gets it done in the Dome at home. So give me Syracuse.
Wow. Okay. Listen, one thing about what I said earlier, it takes time to cycle your guys through. Never is that more true than when it is at places like Syracuse. So I'm going to go. I'm a little nervous. All of us picking the same thing as well. But I'm going to stick with Syracuse. I think Dino may have a squad this year. They may be the sleeper team of the ACC this year. I mean, we'll see. Everybody is teeing off on Old Dominion, or Old Dominion is teeing off on everybody, which is, I don't know. But but we'll see. Old Dominion and Virginia, and they're traveling again. Who are you taking with this one, Charlie?
Well, I'm going to go with Virginia. They didn't play well last weekend, and I don't think they'll come out and have another performance like they had last weekend. They didn't score any point. I mean, I think they kicked the field goal, and that was it. But I do believe that they'll find a way to rebound from their loss, playing at home. So I'm going with Virginia.
All right.
I got to go with Virginia. I think that Old Dominion, it sends up rabbit ears, when you see that big win with ODU beating Virginia Tech. So I don't think they'll be able to sneak up on anybody. So I think Virginia will be motivated coming off, blowout loss on the road. I think they're going to come home and they're going to try to get some get right. So, yeah, go ahead and give me Virginia also.
Usually by the third, fourth game of the season, you're no longer sneaking up on anybody. I think that's one of the reasons why Texas A&M got caught again sleeping, and also Notre Dame got caught sleeping with Marshall. You don't know, but those teams don't sneak up on anybody by the third or fourth game of the year, because now we know you're pretty good, and we're not gonna play down to you. So once again, we're all picking the same. I'm okay. So that means one of these teams is going to surprise us, and we're probably going to be wrong. What about Ole Miss and Georgia Tech? Not a great matchup for Georgia Tech, a team that's trying to kind of find their identity. Georgia Tech, oh man, what did they do last week? I can't remember. They actually had a good week last week.
Yeah, they won last week.
Yeah. But Ole Miss is a different monster. Oh man, I think I'm gonna have to go with the SEC on this one. But what are you thinking, Charlie?
I like Georgia Tech. I thought they played a solid game against Clemson.
Yeah.
Defensive standpoint and even offensively, they just had too many penalties to beat Clemson, and of course Clemson ended up well. I don't know. I'm gonna go with Georgia Tech because
okay.
I like Jeff Sims, and their defense is solid. I do think my neighborhood friend will be playing again this week, Charlie Thomas.
Okay.
So I'm going with Georgia Tech. I know that's not popular, but
well, that's okay. That's okay. That's all right.
I'm looking for an upset.
These are the games I think, Charlie, like Kendrick said last week, that will separate us in our picks by the end of the year and help us crown who our real champion is. So I think you got to break the mold at some point. Kendrick went with Ole Miss. Raashaan, who you going with?
I think I'm going to be with Kendrick on that one. I just think that for Georgia Tech, while they played good for a half versus Clemson, we started to see that depth kind of take over. I just think in this matchup, I just don't know if Georgia Tech can score enough points. Former Louisville running back Hassan Hall, that's where he decided to transfer to, was down there to the Yellow Jackets. That they have a decent running game. The defense looks good. But Lane Kiffin can put up points, man. And I just think that they're going to be able to get into that 28, 31, 35 point range. I just don't know if Georgia Tech has the horses to keep up.
All right. So Charlie breaks away from the pack and picks Georgia Tech. The rest of us go Ole Miss. What about Liberty and Wake Forest? Liberty, always the sneaky team. 2-0 coming into this game. Liberty is with wins against Southern Miss and UAB. A 4 overtime win against Southern Miss and a win against UAB. Is Liberty is no longer sneaking up on teams like they did the last couple of years. So I think with Sam Hartman being back, I gotta believe Wake Forest is going to be able to kind of overcome everything that Liberty's bringing. But Charlie, what are you doing on that one?
I'm going with Wake Forest.
All right.
Yeah, I agree. Wake Forest is going to get it done. Clausen's not losing that game.
There you go. And then, of course, Kendrick went with Wake Forest as well. Now, listen, I may have been wrong about Duke. I'm willing to admit that here today. I may have been wrong about Duke. In fact, we may have all been wrong about Duke. Now,
hold on. Let's pump the brakes a little bit.
I'm just saying.
I understand what you're saying, and their schedule is very favorable.
It is.
They are doing a good job. They are playing much better. No, don't get me wrong. But who did they play the first week?
It was who was it? It wasn't a
like I said.
dominant.
So the next week they played Northwestern, which is another team that they're better than.
They played Temple and Northwestern so far.
Yeah. And so now they have who?
Now they have North Carolina A&T.
All right. So,
which should put them at 3-0.
Yeah. That is my point. They are better than those three teams at this current state, which bodes well for them because that gives them confidence. I mean, sometimes confidence is the biggest equalizer to success.
And to your point, Charlie, I that's why I said I may have been wrong, because Duke teams of the past, it was likely they could lose that Temple game or lose that Northwestern game, and they're playing decent football right now. Now, I don't know if I'm not saying it's going to result into an ACC championship, but they're playing better than expected football, and definitely better than football than they've played the last couple of seasons. So I'm going with Duke. Charlie, I'm assuming you're going with Duke as well, and of course Kendrick took Duke as well. So I don't like that we're picking all the same people. This is scary to me. Okay, Texas Tech and NC State. NC State has not. They looked better last week, but a lot of that was the opponent because it was Charleston Southern. So they were going to look pretty good in that game. But that's what they're supposed to look in a game like that, and they look better than the first week game. Texas Tech, a much more difficult opponent. Your thoughts, Charlie? What are you thinking about NC State and Texas Tech?
I'm still not sure about NC State and kind of what they do, but I'm gonna go with NC State because they're playing at home.
Okay. They scare me, man. They scare me.
Texas Tech will be a formidable, much better opponent, but they played thus far.
Absolutely.
I don't know what time the game is kicking off.
It is kicking off at 7 p.m.
Okay, it's a 7 p.m. game. So I was going to say, anytime you have, if it's an early kick, especially if you have a team that's got more Western coming east, I always like the East Coast teams. But that being said, the Big 12 still is defense optional, and NC State has a pretty good defense. That's where they're supposed to hang their hat on, as well as at the quarterback position. So, I'm going to have to go ahead and agree to take NC State.
I'm going to say this. The one thing that scares me about this game, Devin Leary has not looked great. Even in the wins, it's still not great. It's so I'm concerned about that he hasn't taken that next step. And I may be joining Kendrick in this. I think I'm going to take Texas Tech in for the win in this one. I'm concerned about them, man. Very, very concerned. All right, Pitt, Western Michigan. My guy let me down, Charlie. He let me down.
Go with Pitt.
You go with Pitt. Okay. Bounce back game for them.
I still want to know why all these ACC teams are going on the road to play group of 5 teams at their home. I don't understand that.
The ACC has been quite benevolent this year. I don't know what that's about either, because normally you don't have to do that.
No.
But they have been quite benevolent this year, going on the road to put some cash in some people's hands, I guess.
I tell you what, Western Michigan for a little while, they looked pretty good against Michigan. When they were playing them, that is a very scary game if I'm Pittsburgh coming off that loss to Tennessee. I lean Western Michigan in the upset. I think Pittsburgh will get it done just because they've got to get a win. They got to get a win. Coming off that loss, you can't have 2 losses in a row.
Right.
So if Pittsburgh would have beaten Tennessee, I probably would be taking Western Michigan. But I'm going to say Pittsburgh gets it done because they have to.
All right. For the clean sweep, we're all going Pitt. I think I echo your sentiments. I would have to believe that they're going to bounce back. Maine and Boston College. I'll be very transparent. I know zero about Maine football. I'm probably this year's old realizing that Maine has a football team. So with that being said, surely Boston College, because this is the 0-2 game. Both teams 0-2. Surely Boston College, right? That surely Boston College.
Boston College has to win.
Surely, right?
They that bad.
Surely.
Yeah, you can't lose to Maine. Like, you just can't.
It doesn't feel like that's going to happen, which probably means it is going to happen. But surely they're going to win that game. Okay. Louisiana Tech, Clemson. Clemson's still in tune-up mode, trying to prepare themselves for everything, I guess, that's coming down the pike. I would imagine they're going to be significant against Louisiana Tech. Charlie, you going with Clemson on this one?
Yes, I'm going with Clemson.
I agree.
All right. And, of course, Kendrick went with Clemson as well. Another big one, huge game, one that everybody is talking about, and it's a late game. It's a 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock, 9 o'clock start time, Miami and Texas A&M. I'll be honest with you, the late start concerns me for both teams, especially Miami.
Hey, man, them cats probably up playing video games and stuff.
Well,
so playing a football game is no big issue. They'll be ready. That means they get to rest all day.
Yeah.
But I'm going with Miami.
Okay.
I like the Hurricanes on the road. Texas A&M struggling until they figure out the quarterback position. Miami's not a good team to try to figure out the quarterback position with, especially the defense that they have. And so I do believe that if Haynes King is not performing well, they're going to put in Max Johnson. They got to make a change there just to get the ball moving. And then again, it may not work either.
Right.
Can't run the football. So, and then defensively, they're going to have a good challenge with Miami. Miami didn't impress last week. I mean, they won 30-7, I think it was. But the game probably should have been, you would think, more than that. Depending upon, the team that he was playing against. So
right, Southern Miss, right.
So I don't know, but I'm going Miami though.
Okay.
You can't lose to App State and then turn around and lose to Miami. Like this is once again one of those where I think Miami is probably the better team right now, but Jimbo Fisher's got a flame under his hind parts right now. Like losing.
So what do you think happens if he loses this game?
Hey, Jimbo, he's like he had that heat back at FSU too, so he's not trying to get on the bad side of those Texas football fans. So I'm gonna say Texas A&M purely out of self-preservation will get the win versus Miami.
I'm gonna be honest with you. I am on board with that as well. And I believe Miami. Now here's the irony of my pick. I'm gonna pick Texas A&M, but I think Miami's gonna win, and I think Jimbo is gonna he's gonna feel the fire. But I'm picking Texas A&M because I agree with you. There's a difference between coaching for the win and coaching for your life, and I think Jimbo is coaching for his life because he can't listen. The problem with Jimbo in this particular situation is that he has kind of talked a lot of trash, sort of. About recruiting and NIL and all this other different stuff. And so he's left himself extremely vulnerable here. So now he's got to win this game. He has got now, Charlie, you have highlighted incredibly the problems that they are coming into this game with. And the one part you left out is it's a Miami team defense that is chomping at the bit. Because they're looking for their statement win. And so this would be it. This would be the game that makes the nation go, oh, Miami is back, right? So this could not have come at a worse time for Jimbo Fisher, but I'm going to lean to his traditional expertise of figuring it out and say in a very, very close game at home, pushed by that Texas A&M crowd, they figure out a way to get a field goal late and win the game. So there you go.
Hey, and Lloyd, don't dismiss the fact that Texas almost upset in Alabama. That's going to stick.
Oh, that's bad. That's bad
too.
that's very. Listen, that's very bad for Jimbo because now the pressure could not be worse for Jimbo Fisher right now. So, but I'm gonna lean toward his expertise and just say he figures it out. But I'm not confident in that pick at all. I'll just be honest with you. I'm not confident in that pick at all. All right. The big one for us, Florida State, University of Louisville. I don't think there's any suspense in what Charlie's going to pick here. And by the way, I got a tremendous kick out of hearing Corey say Seminoles. I said that must be a culture thing because but Charlie, out by just for record purposes, who are you picking in this game?
Well, I'm going to go with the Florida State Seminoles in this game. I think Jordan has a big game. When it comes to having effects on the game, I should say. I think he has his moment where he's prepared himself. I'll say that.
Yeah.
And he's prepared to play. physically, mentally. He has confidence in what he's doing offensively. The offensive line has come on, even though they've had a couple injuries, a couple setbacks, but they have the depth there to where it's not a huge drop off. They probably need to communicate a little bit better on some of those blitzes, but nonetheless, defensively, I know the run game, our run defense has been very good, and then we got to put pressure on the quarterback in order to have some success. Keep him in the pocket, keep him, corralled, so he's not running free like he was doing. But of course, I'm going to Seminoles.
All right. The chop is in full effect. Raashaan, what are you doing here, sir?
I tell you what, it's going to be Friday night. It's going to be a red out. Louisville's wearing my favorite uniform combination, the red jerseys, black pants, black helmets with chrome. The crowds are going to be lubricated.
Deeply lubricated.
I feel like there's going to be a lot of nervous tension in the air. I think that the FSU troll job has definitely gotten everybody excited for the game. I think that Louisville will play well. I think that the defense will play better than they have classically. That being said, I'm going with Florida State.
Wow.
I think that right now, Louisville's offense isn't playing well enough to carry right now. Like they've not played well so far this year. They only scored 7 points in the first game versus Syracuse. They scored 19 versus UCF, even though they were able to get the win. I just don't think the offense is playing well enough, and against the Florida State defense is going to be very big, very physical. This is going to be by far the most talented team that Louisville's seen, a team that has just as much, if not more, depth and talented depth. I just feel that Louisville's not playing enough offensively to win. So I think it'll be a close game, like maybe 24-21. FSU, it may come down to the fourth quarter, but I do think that the Noles get it done.
Wow, there it is. Kendrick is going with University of Louisville. I think Coach Satterfield can hear the footsteps of in NBA and in NFL. There's a term for the guy who comes around and grabs your playbook and says, "Come with me to the coach's office." They usually call him the Turk. In a lot of the locker rooms, they call him the Turk. I think Satterfield can hear the Turk, and losing to FSU, a team that he has traditionally done well against, is not an option. And if he wants to stop the fever pitch of what came out of that Syracuse game, he doesn't really have a choice. And the irony of this is Mike Norvell can actually afford to lose this game. Satterfield cannot. He cannot lose this game, and especially not at home. I'm going to go with a 1-point victory for Louisville. I don't think it's going to be a blowout either way. And I think somehow, some way, he finds a way to pull this team together and find that offense that you're talking about, Raashaan, and they pull it together and get the win. But man, can you imagine 2 coaches that will be on the hot seat come Sunday for sure if they lose their prospective game? Jimbo Fisher and Coach Satterfield will not. This could be season-defining games for both of them.
I agree.
So I'm. It's going to be interesting to see what happens. Raashaan, please tell the people where they can find your show and how they can listen each day to what you guys are doing on 502.
Absolutely. So you guys can catch me every Saturday morning, 9 to 11 a.m. WXVW 96.1 FM, Big X Sports Radio here in Louisville. You can check me out at wakeup502.com as well. You can follow me on Twitter at Raashaan. That's RAASHAAN. Same thing on Facebook as well, facebook.com/Raashaan. and just check out everything we're doing. We got a lot of good stuff going on. It's not only the center of the college football world right now. You got Lamar Jackson and all his drama with the contract. You have Donovan Mitchell getting traded to the Cleveland Cavaliers. So Louisville is everywhere right now. You know, it's like the year of the Cardinal all over again. So hopefully Coach Satterfield can get it going. But no, I'd love for all you guys to check out everything we're doing.
It is great to catch up with you, my brother. I appreciate you. I miss you terribly. We miss walking the sidelines and the sidelines of football games with you. Charlie, what do you got? Any shout outs before we take off for today?
Shout out to my Seminoles. I like to shout out all of we got our state championship rings on I think last Friday.
Nice.
It was the day after our show. Podcast.
And you were supposed to wear it today. What happened? I don't see the ring. There it is.
Hey.
Let's get the close up. Wait a minute, Charlie. I got to give you the proper close up on this thing. Oh, that's a nice thing there, Charlie Ward. And listen, we have a tradition, unlike any other on this show, when Charlie Ward shows his rings and whatnot.
And that was a Charlie Ward humble flex.
It's always a humble flex. It's always a humble flex. Always. But that looks good, Charlie. I like that, man. I like that. I'm assuming Kendrick and I's in the mail, right? Is that what's
Yes.
Okay, all right, good. Awesome. Can't wait to flex on mine as well. But congratulations again, Charlie. For a great season last year. I guess now that the ring is here, we finally have to turn the page and get ready for next season.
Yeah. But this is just to finish it out.
That's just to finish it out. Excellent. Well, listen, it's going to be a great weekend of college sports, like it always has been. My shout out was actually to Lamar Jackson. I want to say, for a guy who is being questioned on every turn about his future and his decisions, for him to come out and play as well as he did this past Sunday, I thought was impressive. Because everybody is saying, I can't believe you didn't take the money. I can't believe you held it out. I can't believe they didn't get a deal done. And for him to block out all of that noise and just play as solidly as he did, I thought that was impressive. And by the way, he helped me win my first fantasy game, so I was really excited about that too. So there you go. So with that being said, thank you, Raashaan. Raashaan, we got to have you back, man. We got to have you back. We got to have you back, man.
Anytime, Lloyd, anytime you want me, just shout me out, man. I got you.
Absolutely. I appreciate it. Please tell Haven I said what's up and the rest of the crew over at Main Event. And guys, we appreciate each and every one of you for hanging out with us. Thank you for watching us live, or thank you for going back and listening to the podcast later. We appreciate you. Shout out to our sponsors, Bet Online and Popcorn World. And we are out of here. You've been listening to Believe in the ACC with Charlie Ward, Lloyd Spence, and Kendrick Haskins. Please like, follow, subscribe, and share from the Noisemakers page on Facebook and on YouTube. And you can also listen to us on Spotify, Apple Music, iTunes, and wherever podcasts can be heard. And join us